Welcome to A Second Helping with Allison Bartow, a wedding photography podcast with a focus on second shooting. Welcome back to another episode of Save, Delete, Dodge, and Burn, my wedding recap, where I go over expectations for a wedding and then how it's going immediately after, some feedback, and then after I've reviewed the photos, I kind of chime in again. So this week's wedding, it's on a Friday. I am working in a studio. So it is a photographer named Vanessa. She's the main shooter. I will be second shooting. And I'm actually photographing a wedding for her in June. So it's nice that I'm going to get a chance to work with her prior to me working for her in a couple months. So coverage is going to start at 1:30. It's 1:30 to 9:30. I will be going to groom prep. It looks like we are going to a Hilton in Wilmington. We'll be there for about an hour, and then we're going to head over to Marian Coffin Gardens. So I've never been there, but the pictures I've seen online, it looks pretty cool. It looks like it might be a little bit older, so it should have a pretty cool feel to it. The weather looks good. We don't have any rain in the forecast. It might be a little on the chillier side, but it looks like the high for the day is going to be right around when we're taking photos. And let me see what that was. It was actually like 62, so not bad at all. The groom and the groomsmen should like that. We are doing a first look, and then the couple are doing private vows. They were also married last year. So they're already married. They're going to do these private vows. And then there's also a ceremony. So they really like getting married, which is great. We're going to do family photos there, bridal party photos, and then bride and groom portraits. And then we're going to head over to Hockessin Memorial Hall, where there's a short ceremony, and then we go to cocktail hour and then reception. Reception looks pretty standard with intros, first dances and speeches, that cake cutting off to the side. We keep seeing that intimate cake cutting versus like the big scene. So that's it. Like I said, so far so good. We have a shot list, and that looks pretty reasonable. And there's like one photo they've requested. The bride wants a photo of the junior groomsmen like holding the back of her dress. I checked in. There isn't an inspiration pic. I wanted to ask because if she had a certain, image in mind that she wanted sort of replicated, I just wanted to know because I don't want to set up my version of that and then have her not be happy. So I checked on that. I did ask about, if there was a plan in case it rained, just because last week on Friday and Saturday, I think Thursday, Friday and Saturday, it poured rain like all day. So this is an outdoor area for all the formal photos and the first look, and there is no cover there. So there wasn't really a backup plan. And so I did have the studio that we're working for call and confirm with the Memorial Hall that if it is raining, we are allowed to go in earlier than what they're contracted, to be there. So we look like we'll be fine. But I just wanted to know, because when you're working for somebody else and they're not there and you're representing the studio and you're trying to make sure that the bride and groom are happy, but things are a little bit out of control, out of your hands, you just want to kind of know what to do. So I'm glad we also have a contact for the venue, which is nice. So I just feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that if something happens, that's kind of covered already. And then, it's pretty standard. So looking forward to it. And I'm second shooting, and then I have a bar mitzvah the next day. So I will be checking back in, most likely on my way to the wedding on Friday, to see how it's all going. So I'll talk to you then. Hello, it is Friday, Cinco de Mayo. I am at the getting ready spot. I'm at the hotel where the guys and the girls are here. So I got down here like almost an hour early. And I just checked in, and the other photographer is here. So I'm going to go into the lobby shortly and meet her. We still have about half an hour before we need to officially start coverage. So I'm going to just introduce myself to her and then get started. It had a lot of dramatic clouds on the way down here, and I checked the weather and it says that rain is starting shortly, but it looks like that should clear up by 2, which is still half an hour before we leave the hotel for first look. So that's about it. Everything so far seems like it is going to go according to schedule. There haven't been any updates or changes. The weather temperature is 67, so it's really nice right now. So we're just going to hope that rain passes through, and that's it. I will check in later. All right, it is 10 o'clock. I am on my way home. It is Cinco de Mayo. It is a full moon, and I've seen 2 foxes so far. But the wedding went well. I got to the venue, the Hilton Hotel, and I went to the parlor room where the guys are supposed to be getting ready, and it was the bride and a makeup artist. 700 feet onto Baylor Road. And like one bridesmaid, and it was really tense. And then the bridesmaids kind of rotated in and out, like they were running back and forth to the room. And I guess the bride was tense, nervous, because I think she was running a little bit late. But I couldn't figure out why she was there and where the guys were. But she said they were going to come down, and so she was there for probably like 15 or 20 minutes. And then she left, and then the makeup artist was packing up, and then like one bridesmaid came in and was like, "Oh, good, so I'm here for my touch-up." And I think the makeup artist wanted to cry. She'd been there since 7, and it was now like 1:45. And then the guys started coming in, and they were nice. One groomsman was completely dressed already, and then there were a total of 5 groomsmen and the groom, and then the father of the bride. And I don't think any of the groomsmen are married. So it felt like they hadn't been to a lot of weddings. And so that process of like, what do I do with this? I don't have a belt. How come the pants don't have a belt? What do I do with these cufflinks? How do I put these button things in? All of it took a lot longer. It took them like close to an hour to get dressed. And they were all at like different stages, and everyone was getting like a different item of clothing on. And so they were nice, but they were just like kind of nervous. They were grumbling, like the girls took the speaker, so they didn't have music. They didn't really have any, so it wasn't the normal like mood and energy of a groom prep, but they were all like nice enough. I think I already said this, but I loved the father of the bride. He was like really relaxed, but like all pulled together. He had like snazzy shoes and like a silk pocket square or a scarf rather that was, like in his pocket. But he was just totally calm and super nice to everyone. And it was great. A lot of times dads have like a really like a nervous energy, or they're just anxious, but he was great. And then the boutonnieres were a disaster. They were pinning them like all over the place. I think they got them all on. Well, they did get them all on eventually. And then we were probably 15 minutes late leaving the hotel. We got over to Marian Coffin Gardens for pictures, and so I've never been there, and then it turns out that the other photographer and the videographer had never been there either. So I kind of quick scoped it out, and I didn't get to explore the whole place. It's a really cool place. But I found a spot for the guys, and it was so natty. There were just gnats everywhere. So I didn't want to have them come into the grass, so I kept them on like the stone area, and I went out into the grass, and I got a bug up my nose, I got a bug in my eye, and the guys were getting attacked too, but no matter where we went, there were gnats. And then the groom's mom's like, "It's gonna rain." And I was like, "Oh no, it's not gonna rain. I've been checking the weather." And then there was like a few drops. 10 minutes later, she's like, "I told you it's raining." And I was like, "It's going to be fine." And it stopped, and it was fine. I got the guys' pictures done, like portraits and all of that. And then the shuttle had to drop us off and go all the way back and get the ladies and come back. So I think by the time the ladies got there, we were 25, 30 minutes behind schedule. And so it went from having an hour and 45 minutes to do all the portraits to like, I mean, it was just shy of an hour, I think. And we had to do first look and then some portraits, and then they did vows with each other, and then bridal party portraits and some family portraits. And it got a little bit tense. Vanessa was doing a nice job with the portraits, but we were probably just taking a little bit longer. And so, as is always the case, the bridal party and the family just get annoyed. They're just tired of standing around. And so, the maid of honor was just standing there getting bit by gnats and like holding the bouquet and like an extra pair of shoes and an empty bottle of water. And, but everybody else was like waiting and waiting. And then finally like another bridesmaid came over and she had a little bit of an attitude. She was like, we have to get this moving or something. And so Vanessa was really calm. And so the lead photographer, and then we like made our way over. So we got photos in a lot of different areas there. I think they're going to look really nice. The first, so we found a little like stone tiny building, and so we're like, oh, we'll do the first look there. Vanessa had a nice idea to have them like hold hands around the corner of the building before he saw her. And I was getting him in position and kind of explaining everything to him and taking his sunglasses away from him. And I looked down and there was a dead baby mouse. And I was like, just don't walk too far. And he's like, what? And I was like, there's a dead little mouse there. And so he was like, all right. And then we're talking, and he's like, I feel like we should move the mouse. And I was like, all right. And I was like, I'll do it. And he's like, I mean, I can do it. And I was like, he is not touching that mouse. And I was like, no, it's your wedding day. I'll move the dead mouse. So I got like a piece of bark, and I flung him into the bed of ivy. And so we did the first look, and the groom had been nervous. Now, they got married last March, so they've been married, and all of their like close friends and family know this. But he was nervous, and then he just kept saying, as soon as I see her, as soon as she's here, I'll be fine. He wasn't like having a panic attack, but he was just like, you could tell he was like just a little bit antsy and just wasn't relaxed. And so when she finally got there, he kind of was like giddy and was like, for lack of a better word, kind of immature. And so she was like ready for this nice romantic emotional moment, and he was just being like kind of goofy, and he didn't let up. And so she was getting annoyed. He was just like kind of cracking lame jokes and then like repeating them. So he was like, you look all right. She looks all right. And he must have said it like a dozen times. I don't know if he ever said she looked beautiful or that she looked pretty, but he just kept repeating like, she's all right. And he had sunglasses on. And I told all the guys, I normally tell them when we're in the groom prep room, like, guys, my job today is going to be reminding you to take off your sunglasses and make sure you empty your pockets of sunglasses, cell phones, wallets, keys, flasks, anything else. So I had already told them this. The groom and at least one other groomsman loved their sunglasses. So he kept putting them back on. And so we're doing portraits, and I kept like seeing them, and he liked to wear them backwards. So they were like at the back of his head, and then like the arms of the sunglasses were poking out. So I think we're able to keep them off for most of the portraits, but oh my God, I saw those sunglasses the rest of the day. So I think he even had them on for the first dance with his mom. And so like portraits, I'm telling him take them off, but like, I feel like at a certain point, it's like not my business or my place to tell someone that looks ridiculous. And if he wants to wear sunglasses during his first dance with his mom, I guess at that point, that's totally up to him. I just feel like for portraits, like that's like we're creating a portrait, for the bride and groom. So we did their first look, and then we went and did
their vows, and she was happy, but then he was still just being like kind of awkward. And I don't know if it was just like the relief of finally seeing her and being with her, but he just really didn't let up. And I felt like she was getting annoyed, and so it was a little bit awkward. So we just kept shooting them, and I kept thinking, well, at least there's no sound. And then I would remember that there was a videographer. So we did those. We did family portraits. By that time, I think everybody was annoyed because we were at least 20 minutes, 30 minutes past when we were supposed to leave to head to the venue. And then the little niece was 3, and she tripped and fell like they always do, but she started crying. She hadn't had her nap. So she had like a snot bubble and she couldn't stop crying. And I felt bad for her. Like, it's just a lot for little kids on wedding days. But she pulled it together for photos. And then they all got, and I don't know, like the guys weren't drinking a lot. They did like one shot and were drinking a little bit when I was with them. I don't know if they were drinking earlier. They hadn't said that they were. I don't know how much they were drinking on the trolley. I didn't get the impression that they were really drunk. And then I don't know how much they drank from portraits in the 20-minute ride back to the venue. But we all got there at the same time, and we got there at like 5:30, and the ceremony was supposed to be 5:30/5:45. So we quickly loaded everything in. I didn't have time to set up my light stands. I just didn't want to be messing with those when all the guests were seated at their tables for the ceremony. So Vanessa and I just shot like on camera flash for that, and the ceremony was pretty quick, but again, the groom just refused to like say the vows the way that the officiant was speaking them. He was just like leaving words out on purpose to be funny, and in poverty and wealth, and he was like in poverty and poverty, and just like that kind of stuff. And I just always find that odd because it's just kind of like making I guess a spectacle of yourself, but like kind of like making a joke out of it, and like just making yourself the center of attention instead of it being about, the two of you. So it was weird. And I don't know like if that was nerves or, I don't know them. So I don't know. So they did that, and then they left. Everyone, like they had the recessional, and then they were all in the lobby. They were just like, we don't know what we're supposed to do now. So they hung out, cocktail hour. I set up my light stands during cocktail hour, and I think everyone was like a little bit more relaxed then. They were calming down. And then that was fine. I was all set up then with lights, and we were just kind of shooting some grip and grins and going around and getting some details. And then this could be pure rumors. I don't know. They were lining up outside for introductions, and there was like, I could see like something, and then the DJ said, the groom's missing. And I was like, what do you mean he's missing? And this is the part that could be a rumor. He yelled, F you, to the bride and stormed off, and they can't find him. And I was like, well, that's interesting. So there was definitely a delay out there. And then Vanessa went over to see what was going on. And then I just hung back up by the sweetheart table in position for when they were introduced. And then they found him and brought him out. And I don't know, the story was like, oh, he was just changing his shoes. So who knows what really happened. But we did introductions. That was all fine. And we did first dances. The bride and her dad's dance was really sweet. And then the groom and his mom, he was like doing some weird thing, and then he like put his hand in her hair and like ruffled her hair really rough, like a guy does to like a 4-year-old boy or something. And I was just like, that's weird. Why are you doing that? And I don't know if it's just like nerves, but it was strange. And then again, those orange mirrored sunglasses on the back of his neck for the whole dance. So I don't know. And then the bride did a dance with her mom, because the parents are divorced, so that was sweet. And then the rest was pretty good. It was like a little bit of a slow start to the dancing, and then people were out there. The kids were really the VIPs, the MVPs. 6-year-old Leo, 3-year-old Isla, and another young girl who was like around the same age. I mean, they just got a second win, and they danced and danced and danced. They had so much fun. They were in the photo booth all night. They had a blast. So the bride was really sweet to us, the whole day. And then the groom was nice, but it was like kind of like a little bit of a roller coaster with just like, I don't want to say his attitude, but like kind of his disposition. So there was just, I don't know, it's a wedding day. There's a lot of emotions and heightened stuff, but the bride was nice. Like, she came up to Vanessa and was like, make sure you come and see me before you leave. I have something for you. And I said to Vanessa, like, oh, that's so nice. I was like, but also, can you imagine ever like leaving a wedding without saying goodbye to the bride and groom? So it was very nice of her. And, she just she was nice to us. She was very polite the whole time. And then, like, even at the end of the night, I went up to the groom and I said, hey, congratulations. And he was like totally coherent and with it. And he was like, thanks, you were great. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I didn't see anyone like belligerently wasted, which is kind of impressive for Cinco de Mayo. But a Friday wedding, I don't know if people we were talking about this when we were having dinner, the photographer, the videographer, and me, about, because the DJ was saying like, man, I came in and like nobody was smiling. And we were saying like, I don't know if it should be because you're like at the end of the work week and people are like either rushing from work or they took the day off of work, and they're, it's not like a Saturday where, you aren't working or doing your normal routine stuff. So we weren't sure, just if that's probably more par for the course for Friday weddings. They did the cake cutting. They did like the intimate cake cutting, and that was fine. There was like, I was a little bit concerned because, I mean, that just seemed like a real opportunity for things to go south, and it was fine. They were good. So yeah, we'll see how the pictures are. I think that was it. I'm probably forgetting some things. I'll remember when I go through the pictures. Oh, there was the groom, before we got to the site for portraits, I heard him say a couple times, he was talking about his ring. I guess since they've been married, I'm assuming he's been wearing his ring since last year. But one of the bridesmaids came and took it, and they also took her rings, I believe, for Vanessa to photograph. And I guess he was just concerned. He wanted his ring back, and so he kept talking about it. And then when the ladies got there, it was one of the first things he said, like he didn't have his ring. And so I went over and I found, the best man had it. So I went and I got it from him. So I gave it back to the groom. So it was nice that he was concerned about it, but like he was definitely fixated on having his ring back. And I did then towards, once everyone started dancing, I did get their wedding bands and her engagement ring and got some detail shots on the sweetheart table. It's a typical sweetheart table size, and it had a full pitcher filled with ice and water. I've just never seen like a whole water pitcher. It looked like a huge vase just in the center of the sweetheart table. The the maid of honor gave like a nice short and sweet toast, and the best man's speech was a little on the longer side, but not raunchy, but like there were just a lot of questionable words. It seemed like most of the audience and guests were laughing, but it was something that felt like you would see it on like TikTok. But no one seemed too upset about it. So sweetheart, nothing caught on fire. There weren't a tremendous amount of candles. They had real flowers, so it's always really important to me. Yeah, I think that was it. So I will, like I said, once I go through the photos and see them, report back, and I'm sure I forgot a lot of things. But yeah, dead mouse, saw a couple foxes, and all right, I will check in later.
All right, so I'm coming back to do the final portion of Save, Delete, Dodge, and Burn. And for this wedding, I ended up taking 2,075 photos, which was 259 an hour, which is probably right on par with what I normally end up with. Yeah, I'm just looking so far this year. It's been 226, 210, 228, 702. That was for the wedding the other day where we were only shooting for 3.5 hours. But 259 is right on track there. I haven't culled yet, so I don't know how many I'm going to keep. Normally it ends up being about 16 to 18%. So in reviewing the photos, I would say the things that went well, there were some nice photos from groom prep. There was sort of a wall of windows, so we had light coming in from that one side. So there were some photos that just had nice directional light coming in. The other side of the room was kind of just dark and it fell off. So luckily they weren't over there as much. So I just didn't shoot as much over there. There was a mirror over there that the guys would go over to kind of adjust their ties. So I got some reflection shots, but not the best lighting over there. And then I did like some of the pictures I got of the bride when I first showed up when she was having her makeup finished in the room. So I only have a few of her, but there were a couple in there that I really liked. So there were some good storytelling images from our time at the hotel for prep. The other thing, I think that was it. For things that didn't go so well, I felt like I didn't have enough groom solo portraits, which I just have to pay attention to because the grooms are never really into it. So I probably rushed through it a little bit too quickly. And in this instance, there were all of those gnats and he was like physically uncomfortable. So I rushed through it. I did some portraits in 2 different locations, but going through, I just wish I had a few more. And then when I looked at the photos, he did have those sunglasses on during his first dance with his bride. In my head, it was just when it was with his mom, but it was with the bride as well. And then he had taken his shirt and his jacket off. So for the cake cutting, it's just a printed t-shirt and sunglasses, and she's in her beautiful wedding dress. So it kind of looks like some guy walked back from the beach and cut the cake with the bride. For things that I want to do more of, I think with this wedding, it wasn't really a photojournalistic documentary style shoot. And so I could have moved around some more things in the room before shooting. They had done like a toast. They were doing, they did only one round of shots, but they kept saying, are we going to do the shots? Are we going to do the shots? And so looking back, I could have like moved like the gift bag and a few other things off the table so that shot looked better. So I think I just have to be mindful of certain circumstances when I can just go in and move as much stuff as I want. I wish I would have just set up my light stands for the ceremony. The plus side is that because the lead and I both were just shooting on camera flash, we should have relatively consistent lighting for the gallery. However, it doesn't take me long to set up my light stand. So I wish I would have just done it and then I could have messed with the settings a little bit because you always end up with a little bit more. Well, you don't always, but a lot of times you end up with a little bit more time than you think you have. So I would have just set those up. The other thing is I should have probably tried to give the guys a deadline for when they needed to be dressed by. I don't know if that would have hurried them up or not, but I just felt like we spent an hour in that room and it took them an hour just to put their suits on. So I don't have any pictures of them like hanging out, laughing, talking. I don't know. They may have been right that it sucked that they didn't have a speaker, so they weren't playing any music. So it was just kind of like a quiet room with them nervously getting dressed for an hour. So if I had said, hey, I need you guys dressed by, 2:15, and then I would have had 15 minutes with them to take some pictures, that may have worked out better. And then I wish I would have taken some more creative shots. I did some, but I feel like by the time the reception rolled around and it was like the wheels were kind of coming off with the groom like dipping in and out and the energy being a little bit funky. I was just trying to like shoot the people dancing during the reception, go over and shoot the people that were at the photo booth. And I'm looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have experimented with a few more things. And then the room really, like I compared those photos to the photos from the bar mitzvah the next night. And I wish it had been, there just wasn't any ambient light in the room. There was like a few up lights. And then some basic kind of twinkle lights in like a tulle fabric in the ceiling. So there wasn't too much there. So I maybe should have pumped up the light a little bit more because it was really just the flash we were working with. And then the biggest thing I think I need to do less of moving forward and just be aware of is not allowing myself to get rushed. So I think it's like the people pleaser mentality and like the customer service oriented side of things in the moment where I'm like, oh, they're a little bit over this. I'm going to hurry this along. They're not loving this. Let's wrap it up. And we are there to get portraits and, document everything. And I'm sure there have been people that have hurried up their photographer, and then when they get the pictures back, they are looking for more portraits or more of something. And so I just have to be mindful of that to make sure I'm getting what I need, whether it's for me or for another photographer. So I just have to remember that. And then make sure I'm getting enough groom solo, which I probably have enough groom solo portraits. I don't know how many people are printing just groom solo portraits, but I feel like when I go back to the photos, I'm always like, man, there are a lot fewer of those than there are of the bride. So that's that. I'm going to call them, I'll probably end up, I would say around like 14, 15% keepers. But that's it. Thanks for tuning in for Save, Delete, Dodge, and Burn. And tune in for our next episode where I'm going to recap the bar mitzvah.